Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today is March 3rd and it is still a little snowy outside, but trout season's right around the corner. I have all my trout gear out here and I'm going to break it down for you for if you're just starting fishing for trout. There's a lot of terms that are thrown around there. There's like power eggs, there's dough baits, there's all this stuff. And if you just don't know what any of that stuff is, I'm going to show you all of that right now. I'm also going to show you what I use, my top 3 or 4 baits for any type of trout. Also, the easiest way to catch trout, and I'm just going to break down each category of what type of lure you would use for trout, when you would use it, what circumstances, rivers versus ponds, pretty much trout fishing 101. If you're new to this, hang with me. I'm going to show you everything you need right here. First, stock trout eat pellets. That's what they're fed in the hatcheries. That's what they're used to. So that's why we have lots of dough baits. Now, dough baits come in little egg shapes like this. You get little eggs, and let me take my GoPro out and show you these things up close. They come in eggs like this. Very small little, look like salmon eggs, but they're actually made out of the dough. They also have just dough that you can, take it out and weld it and mold it into whatever shape you want and put it right on your hook. These are the most effective trout baits, period. This is what you want to use right when they're stocked. If you're fishing for stock trout, that is a no-fail way to catch fish. It works all the time. But as trout get more acclimated to the waters that, they're in, they're going to start feeding on insects. They're going to start feeding on small fish, like plankton, stuff like that. So then you would switch off to something else. What else? Well, the thing I would pick up next would be this right here. This is a trout magnet. And you can see it's a little tiny pink grub. It's got a split tail there. You always want to make sure the hook goes right through the split tail like that. And the way you fish this is you fish it right under these little tiny floats with really light test, okay? The light test is important because trout have very good vision. And these, normally when you're fishing a trout magnet, I like to fish them in streams, rivers, slow moving waters where I don't have to cast far because obviously I can't cast that thing very far. It weighs 1/64 of an ounce. This thing is perfect for, 3 to 4 foot streams, but you got to watch out for, getting snagged on lots of rocks. I've lost a ton of those jig heads. But those are a great option. They look like little insects / fish, and the way to do it is just cast it out, let it sit there, and just give it a couple little pops, quick pops with the rod. And as you travel downstream, if you get a hit, your bobber will go under, then you set the hook. That's when you got a fish on. Again, though, I want to say that this jig head here, let me take off this trout magnet. This jig head here is very effective when you want to switch to live bait. I don't normally fish a lot of live bait. I think it's too easy to catch fish with live bait, so I like to, work on my tactics, soft plastics, all that stuff. Live bait's not usually something I do unless I'm bringing my kids fishing and I want them to get on a good trout. But these trout magnet jig heads with a quarter piece of a night crawler under a float will be pretty much automatic catching trout, catching bluegill, panfish, anything. We'll eat a worm, right? But these jig heads are just amazing. They give a little weight and they look realistic. It's not like it's just a hook. It has a little dart on the top of it, so it kind of looks like a head. These are just great products. Like, they're very cheap. Make sure you check, though, if, like, I'm in Massachusetts, I need to buy the lead free because we are not allowed to use lead weights under 1 ounce. A lot of people don't know that, but, we've had lots of problems with birds eating lead and getting poisoned. So, always follow the rules, check your regulations. I know New Hampshire's the same way. I always follow the rules. Hopefully everyone else does too. But, next, we have all sorts of these moving baits here. Now, this right here is your standard inline spinner. Standard inline spinner. We have the orange colors, we have the gold blade, and this is pretty much just going to mimic any type of fish, any type of bait fish. This is a really heavy one, so this is more for like a steelhead or big browns. But this is just a basic inline spinner. Where I would use this would be shallow waters in ponds and lakes, maybe in streams, depending on how snaggy and how rocky it is, but I have a hard time with these, especially these heavier ones. You don't want to fish them in shallow waters. So I would pick up something lighter, you know, like either a small Meps or like a rooster tail, something like that. Panther Martin makes a ton of really good ones, really small ones. Those are great for shallow streams. We also have these spoons here. So this is just a flutter spoon. This is gold. It's got a little pink on there. And what this does is you'll just cast it out there. You'll let it sit and float down, and it'll flutter as it goes down to the bottom. And then what you do is you just want to give it a few pops here and there, and it'll pop up, and it'll look like a wounded fish pretty much dying. And you will catch a lot of brook trout, a lot of brown trout. I usually don't use these for rainbows too often, but you will catch them. But brown trout love spoons like this. So definitely go on Amazon. They're not expensive. Go to Walmart, pick up a few. Definitely add them to your arsenal. You will catch fish on them. And something else that I like to do, not a ton, is just tiny crankbaits. You can see that there. This is a tiny, I think it's a Carl's Bait and Tackle. I got it in a mystery tackle box. Tiny crankbait. I think this dives like 2 to 3 feet or 3 to 4 feet. This is perfect for that like really aggressive fish. If you're throwing stuff out and you're getting slammed at like one after the other and they're just really aggressive feeding on fish, definitely try one of those. They're a ton of fun to fish. 2 treble hooks on it, so your hookup ratio is going to be solid. You're never going to lose fish on those. Unhooking them makes it kind of a pain in the ass, but I mean, bear with me. I mean, it's a fun time for sure. And last, well, maybe not last, I have this is a Castmaster. And this is pretty similar to the spoon that I showed you, but they call it a Castmaster for a reason. Like this thing you can chuck. If I use 4 or 6 pound tests with this, I can cast this almost 50 to 75 yards. Like this thing flies and it sinks, and when you reel it in, it goes like a side to side action, and the fish just go crazy for it. I'll catch a ton of white perch on this if there's white perch in the area too, so it's something to keep in mind for that. Any aggressive fish will eat this. I've caught tons of bass on these. Make sure you use a snap swivel. So use a snap swivel so your line twists don't happen a lot, but these come in gold, they come in silver. Let's see what else I have in here. Let's see if I have a gold one. Oh, yeah, here's another blue one. Here's another blue one. Okay, so I have lots of blue ones. Other things that I might consider using for trout, let's take a look here. Might be, let's see if I can get this off. Something like this too can be great. This is a Berkeley power tube. What it is, it's just a little pre-tied jig, kind of like a marabou jig, but it's all made out of rubber, and it has a power bait scent on it. So these things are great too. And you know, there's pretty much anything you catch a fish with, you can catch a trout with. I'm not gonna go crazy saying, oh, these are only trout specific lures, okay? You can catch anything that swims with all those baits that I just showed you, minus the power bait. Once in a while, you'll get a yellow perch on a power bait. It's happened to me a few times. Very rare, but all of those lures that I just showed you, that is all you need for trout fishing. Like, do not go crazy with the fads and buying all this random crap that you see on Instagram and stuff. You don't need anything. If there's 3 things I can tell you to buy for trout fishing: light line, really small hooks, power bait, and a weight. I mean, yeah, you probably have weights already, but light line is very important because in order for power bait to work, these have to float off the bottom, okay? If you use a too heavy hook, it's gonna sink and it's gonna be out of the strike zone for the trout. It has to float at least a foot off the bottom, usually 18 inches to 2 feet. But a lot of people don't realize they throw a power bait out there and they just rig it to the bottom. It doesn't work like that. You have to have it float in order to work. Use these tips and tricks that I just showed you. Make sure you have light line. 4 pound test is plenty for stock trout. Small hooks, size 10 hooks, power bait. That's all you need to get started. If you want to get into the other stuff, if you want to, like personally me, I think power bait fishing is like the most boring thing you could possibly do. Like throw it out there and just let it sit and wait for a bite. So what I'll do is I'll throw a line out with power bait on it and I'll fish something like an inline spinner, the Meps, minnow, a shallow diving crankbait, something like that, just because I get bored very easily. So if you're just getting started with trout fishing, definitely get the power bait. Definitely pick up some worms, because when nothing else works, worms will work. Pick up some worms. Definitely get a couple spinners, things like that. If you're not getting bit on something, try something else and you will catch a fish. Good luck. See you out there.